All right, welcome everybody into the studio. Today's topic is a NAD T778 surround sound receiver. So for those of you who are not audio guys who are watching this, who are garage guys or car guys, this, when you say receiver, we're implying that there's an amplifier built in. So this has an amplifier. You can always tell if it's an amplifier if it has a speaker binding post on it. And receivers, in general, can be a bit intimidating because of how much they do. They've actually, I think, become a lot less difficult to comprehend as technologies continue to improve. We don't have component video and standard video, so they're starting to drop those type of connections off the back of receivers. We still have general RCA connections, so I'm waiting for them to start eliminating that. Really, you're going to use maybe an optical connection, and you're going to use HDMI. And so what I'm going to show you today, which is a little different than what most places show you, we're not going to get into specs. I mean, it's 85 watts per channel, or for, I guess, seven channels. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So 9 channels. So it has 9 channels of amplification. And it's rated at 85 watts for all channels driven. And they call that, what do they call that? They call it full disclosure power. So it's supposedly a real 85 watts in a FTC, which I'm not sure what they mean by that FTC abbreviation. I think that's like full power, which is what most receivers would rate themselves at, is 140 watts. So if you were comparing this is right now, today's $3,199, $3,200. If you're comparing it to Yamaha and Denon and some of the others, you would say it's somewhere in the 140 watt per channel range. But what I'm going to go over here today is some of the nuances that you would need to know in order to make a decision on buying this. I'll probably sell more of these to you that are building your home theater. I think this is one of the best. I don't think it's the best sounding receiver I've ever heard, but I think it's the best receiver overall that I've ever experienced, and so it better be for $3,200. This is like old Yamaha RXV1, a flagship. Denon was at AVR 5200 back in the day, whatever the newest version of that is. This is in flagship money territory from a receiver's perspective. So I don't think it has the power. I know it doesn't have the power or quite the ability to drive big giant speakers as those others do, but technology, fit and finish, clarity, smoothness. I spent a bunch of time listening to this on the Dynaudio Vox behind me yesterday. I'm really enjoying the all that NAD provides us. For the garage, if we were going to do surround sound in the garage, the real advantage to this receiver is it's a Class D architecture. So rather than having a big toroidal transformer and a big giant, big capacitors and in essence lots of heat generation, this uses a chipset. So it's a Class D chipset that creates what they call high current amplifier. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't think this has quite as much. I feel like it has more clarity and detail reproduction, but it doesn't quite have as much bottom end and just pure grunt that a big honking, 100-pound receiver would have. The weight on this is much more reasonable because it doesn't have that giant power supply. So I'm really not here to judge that, what my judge is, and the reason why I've decided to carry this is because of all the other stuff. This is a lot like, to me, this is a lot like the Sonic cabinets that we sell. The Sonic cabinets are not the most durable. They're not the biggest, heaviest cabinets. They're not Lista. But the architecture, the fit, finish, how the corners look, the foam inlay systems, the way they bolt together, the modularity of it, all the parts and pieces go together to make it my favorite. Sonic doesn't do anything best in the cabinet world, but the overall package, I think, makes it best because of all that it does. And that's the same thing with the NAD stuff that I really like. So combination of Class D and garage and the the detail you get from the amplifiers that these produce, I really like it. I'm really pleased with performance. We're likely going to carry Onkyo as well. I think the current Onkyo stuff is best for network receiving, so basically being a streamer, and that's what these things do so great. They have Blue OS on board. I'm hoping that Onkyo employs Blue OS as well, because I think it's the best operating system for streaming, at least currently on the market available, much better than Sonos and some of the other options. So this is a, this has what all the receivers has. Look at all the specifications. It does, 4K U8 Ultra HD pass-through, so 4K 60. It has an MDC module on the back, so I should probably turn it around and talk to you about this. It has the ability to upgrade, so if we get into 8K switching and video takes the next leap forward, you ought to be able to upgrade. There's an in-home upgrade path to this. You take 2 screws off, you pop a module in, and you're able to upgrade various things on a receiver like this. So that means that when you're spending your $3,200 on this thing, that it's going to last a long time. And you can see all the various connections, all the various inputs. I think the key here for the video purpose is that you see what it looks like. You get a sense for what the box looks like. You get a sense for how it shows up. This is the accessory box for it. It comes with 2 power cords, 2 remote controls, batteries. It comes with a rack kit. For you to mount in, so you can take and put wings on the edge of here, so you could rack mount it, and then comes with the Blue OS and Dirac tuning kit. We'll talk about all that in a second. And then, just like the setup of these receivers, the packaging and everything is very, very simple. So when you open it up, it essentially has a cardboard section on top, and has 2 foam little holders. Very, very simple, not super sophisticated. They don't send an AM antenna and FM antenna anymore. You don't get some big manual. This is all you get. And I'm telling you, you don't even need a manual for this thing, especially if you watch this video and show you how to do this. Super, super simple. It's not like the old Denons of the back in the day where I'd be on the phone for 6 hours trying to teach somebody how to connect it, and then 2, how to set it up. You'll have this thing set up inside of 15 minutes. I actually prepared my whole day. I bought the M17, which is the $7,000 preamplifier for my house, and the preamp, no amplifier. And it took me, I was ready to do all this setup and sit there and mess around with it all day. And it took me like 8 minutes to set the darn thing up once I plugged all the wires in. 2 HDMI cables is all I needed, and a power cord, and that's running my whole rather sophisticated home theater. 2 HDMIs I had, or 3, one back to the TV. Apple TV 4K, a Blu-ray player, which I never end up using anyway, but I have one just in case. So those 2 HDMI in, 1 HDMI out, and you got yourself a sophisticated system. That's all you need. That HDMI out could have ARC audio return channel that comes back to you if you wanted to use the onboard WebOS, which I don't. I use Apple TV exclusively for my streamer. So this thing has everything you want from a switching capability perspective. Will do anything you need to do, but also has an amplifier. And so Class D is something NAD has transitioned completely toward. So instead of a Class A or a Class AB, which would be a traditional style amplifier, Class D has always been frowned upon. It's been cheaper. I don't know if we call that digital power, but it comes on a circuit board rather than a big giant power supply and all the things I mentioned earlier. And so that makes these lighter, makes them more efficient, makes them run cooler. And I think NAD has figured out how to make a Class D amplifier sound good, not sound cheap and generic like most, like Sonos amps have Class D amplifiers. The Blue Sound Node has Class D amplifiers. Most of your wireless speakers have Class D amplifiers, and that's because they're more compact, more efficient, and now we've kind of figured out how to make them, NAD specifically has kind of figured out how to make them sound really good. So I'm going to plug this in for you in a minute, but one of the coolest things about this thing, and I didn't pull the cellophane off of this yet, but this is a touchscreen, full color spectrum, like amazing display. I think this is the best display of any receiver on the market. It just looks like I want it to look. It's not as tall, it's not as bulky, it's not as heavy. It looks ultra modern, ultra sophisticated. So you take this old classic NAD style of just the black case and you put that fancy screen in there, and it just brings it and makes it relevant immediately. And then the smart thing to do for you would be always pull off the stupid sticker off the front. I see these people battling this on the forums. These idiots leave their frickin' stickers on there. Debadge the thing, because look how much better that looks now. And just for our purposes here, let's take this off. Look how much better that looks. That looks frickin' awesome, I think. That is one of the best looking, and when you see when I turn it on, I think it's one of the best looking receivers on the market. So then on the back, you have all the stuff. I'm telling you, you're gonna make like 3 connections. So you're gonna connect, you're probably gonna go HDMI 1 and 2, which are completely assignable. It'll take you freaking 3 seconds in the menu to set it up. I'm gonna do a full setup video on the 758, so we'll have like an NAD setup video. We'll do that later on. And so for a garage, if you're setting this up, or even your home, again, you're probably gonna have Apple TV. That's it. And then maybe audio return channel, so you may run an HDMI that sends signal back and forth. It sends video one way and audio the other way from your TV, if you will. We might use the audio return channel here on HDMI 1. So once you connect that, I would also highly suggest you hardwire. I hardwired mine, so I went right into my LAN connection here, and then you're going to use USB, and USB is simply for BlueOS module. I'm sure this is coming here in the not too distant future. This is T778V2, I believe. So it's the latest version. The latest version basically just ships with this BlueOS module, so this comes in the box. And what you do is you pop this little sucker off of here. They also send an extension cable if you needed to, but I just plugged it in like this. So this is what gets us wireless streaming capability. So you're gonna hang this off the back. A little clunky, but I think I'd certainly rather have it than not. And so this is what makes it gives you the ability to turn this into a streamer, rather than just connecting via Bluetooth if you're going to use this for music. And so the Tidal would operate right through the BlueOS app, which I'll show you in a second here. So you're going to connect that, and then what I did what I did on my M17 at home, this is a pass-through. There isn't a USB on the front of this if you wanted to, but what I would suggest, because you may want to make tweaks in the future, this does have onboard Dirac Live, D-I-R-A-C, which is at the moment by far the best room tuning solution available on the market. And you can do, it gives you the base program, Dirac. I think it's just Dirac, and then to get Dirac Live or Dirac Live Pro or something like that, you pay like $100. Which if you can swing, $3,200 for a receiver, you're probably buying $5,000 speakers or more, and so you might as well just frickin' pay for the subscription. You'll have it forever. So Dirac Live 3 is what I'm using to calibrate, and that's where you would plug the microphone in. I've just been using the microphone supplied. But a lot of people will use a better microphone, like a mini DSP or something like that. And you can use, any kind of, I believe you need like a cardioid type, is it cardioid mic? Is that how you say it? Yeah, cardioid, it's a non-directional mic, so it can pick up reverberations from all over the room. And so then it gives you like a 30-foot, 25-foot cable or something like that, so you can run around. So the way that I leave mine set up in my cabin is I just kind of tied this up, tucked it behind there. That way I could always pull out and run a new calibration if I got a new speaker or something like that. So you're gonna set up your HDMIs, and then you're gonna plug your speakers in. And there really isn't much else to it. That's what's so cool about it. And I'm going to set it up here, which most receivers you can't do. I'm going to set it up here in this room with a pair of speakers in stereo mode and show you. It takes like frickin' 2 seconds to set this thing up. Now, if you start to do Dirac, you're going to do like 50 points throughout the room and do a calibration, which I did a base one here for this room, just so these speakers didn't sound terrible. I will tell you that what I've found is that all of the NAD stuff with onboard Dirac sound like hot garbage out of the box. They just don't sound good at all. It's terrible. In fact, I was ready to just punt them all. And so you've got to run at least a single point focused image Dirac room calibration, then they sound great. And so I would highly, I guess you could say, give you a disclaimer here. If you take this thing, take it out of the box, you don't know what you're listening to. Like everybody here is like, yeah, it sounds great. I'm like, this sounds terrible to me. Just know M33, the M17 sounds good out of the box. But the M33, the M10 sounds terrible. And this thing, same thing. I just don't think they just don't sound very good, no matter how much money you spend. When all the ones with onboard room calibration, for whatever reason, I got to talk to NAD about that and ask them, what do they change? Because I had a C388 in here. This thing sounds incredible. There's no Dirac tuning, there's no adjustments. Similar Class D amplifier, this has just a little bit more power, and it sounds amazing. So let me plug this in and show you how to do it. You could hook up remote triggers and all of that stuff. Again, we'll show you more sophisticated home theater setups in the future as we do some theater setups in the garage. You also have second zone and third zone outputs, which I don't think you're really going to use very much, and you have multiple subwoofer outputs. One thing to know on these receivers, that I'm pretty certain that the subwoofer 1, subwoofer 2 is just an internal Y adapter, so it's the same output. There's a single level, so you would do all your adjustments on the subwoofer. I'm pretty sure that's the case on this as well as the other NAD stuff. So I don't think there's really much else to say other than what you're buying this for. The screen is freaking fantastic. The Class D amplification, which makes it very, very efficient. If you have a single, like, non-dedicated 15 amp circuit, I think it's going to run fine. And you're going to basically use this for HDMI switching. It has an MDC module for upgrade, and then has onboard Dirac. So to me, this gets way, way simpler than the old school stuff where you had to have all these connections and all this functionality. And then the HDMI standard, I think, is whatever it is, it works. Forget which HDMI standard we're on now. What are we on, 1.3 or something, 1.4? So the HDMI standard functions really, really well. To me, I really don't care that much. I just want it to frickin' work. And I know, a lot of you home theater nerds get real excited about that kind of stuff. And I'm one of the biggest home theater nerds, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm looking for certain things. Like, I'm looking for this simple, functional, excellent. So let's hook it up and show you how that works. So all I'm gonna do is hook up the speaker left and right. So clearly you would have, center channel, surround channel, otherwise this doesn't make sense. Where this comes in, let's say if you were going to buy something like this for your garage, let's say you're balling pretty hard and you're building a really nice garage and you want to do more than just a stereo pair of speakers, and you wanted to have a center channel. That's where it gets dicey. Like in my garage where I made a mistake, this cabinet is about as wide as you want to get for a pair of speakers. I mean, this room is, I think, 14 feet wide, something like that. 14, 15, 16 feet wide. I'm 21 and a half feet wide on my home garage, which destroys any kind of quality center image. And so really what I needed to do, and I didn't do this, and it was too late because we put the headers back in and closed up all the drywall. When I pre-wired the room, I wired for the pair of speakers, but I didn't wire for the center channel. So if you're watching this and you're only into garages, the thing to do with a receiver like this is you're certainly probably not going to do 9.1 surround sound, but if you were going to do, let's say you're not going to do Atmos, but you're going to do just 5-channel surround, this is the way to go. Or even if you just wanted those 3 speakers, I was going to do something like this, where I would do just use the center channel output of this and just run it in 3.1, 3-channel surround, and so this is a bit overkill for a garage, certainly, but that's what we do. We do the best. I mean, why would we slack? So let's go front right. And so I'm using these cables I actually really, really like. These are Velux. We'll have these up in the store probably by the time you see this video. Velux cables are from Metra, and they're like a couple $100. They're just nice. These are Chinese made, but they're just a nice, simple cable. These aren't like Kimber or Audio Quest or anything crazy like that. They're just inexpensive, really nice speaker cables that I really enjoy them. I think the fit and finish of them is really great for what we're getting. So simple as that. So if I were hooking this up in my home theater at home, I'd plug in all my speakers with the cable like this. I'd go HDMI out to the TV, an HDMI in for my Blu-ray, HDMI in for my Apple TV, and I'd call it a day. And we have those HDMI cables as well, because HDMI cables are a fickle thing. You get the wrong ones and they don't frickin' work. So let's hook up our left speaker as well. Mainly the reason I'm doing this is not to go through a major setup exercise for you. I just want to show you what the screen looks like on this thing. It's so freaking cool. So I ran a quick direct on this. I'll just put this over here so you can see. Look at that, the screen is so good. I love it. So I did a quick room calibration last night. I just did a single point, which Direct doesn't recommend. So on my Mac, Direct looks like this. We'll have a Direct video. I'll show you how I do it. Really quite simple. So Direct Live 3. So you create a Direct account on their website. You get like a code when you get the machine. So you pay. You only have to pay for the upgrade. And so when you log into it, you just download it from Mac and you log into it. I've already connected this to the network. So the best way to connect to the network is to download the BlueOS app. And so when you download the BlueOS app, so the BlueOS app I have on my phone is right here. So when you download this and you go to home, you'll just add a player. It'll discover the player as soon as you turn it on. It'll show up here, and then you just follow the prompts to set up, and attach it to your network. It'll attach to your network via AirPlay if you're on an Apple user, or Android. It'll do whatever Android does. Don't ask me. And so now I have the unit on my phone, and so now what it did when I first connected it is it just did a software update, which took 10 or 12 minutes. So then software was relevant, up to date. And then all I did was I went over here to you go up to the top here. And I added, so you music services, if you have Tidal or Spotify Connect, I have Tidal, and so I just connected here and just logged in. I logged into to my Tidal service, and so now I have Tidal here, and I can listen to whatever I want, and this is my sort of Tidal setup. So when I'm using this to stream or listen to music, I'm using this basically as a remote control, and then the player is here, and so I'm able to get. Like I was listening to Perfect Circle here, so if I press play, I'll just turn it down so we don't get copyright struck. Mike, can you see that MQA right there? But look how good the display looks. So cool. And so all I did to set up this stereo pair of speakers is I just go into here in the corner. Sorry, I'll get back to the Dirac here in a second. I went to setup. And then I went to setup menu, and all I simply did was made sure I tell it that I only have 2 speakers, so I just could go in here in 2 frickin' seconds right on the screen. Whereas old receivers in the past, you'd be trying to fumble through the menu. I haven't even used the remote. So this is the remote that comes with it. And you have like the little baby sidekick remote that you're never gonna use. I don't think you're ever gonna use either one of these. You'll end up using your I guess maybe you might use this, but I think that, especially if you're using this in your garage, you're probably never gonna use the remote. You're always gonna just use your phone. And there is also an NAD remote control app as well, which I haven't found the need to use that either. So I could connect to my NAD remote control app if I wanted to as well. So I went in here, set up my speakers. I set these up to large, turned off the subwoofer and all of that stuff. You could also set up your source and rename everything right from the menu here, if I hit the right spot. So I could set up my sources if I had any, really, and that's basically all you need to do. So I'm basically up and functioning and running. And so I had this up and running in freaking 10.5 seconds. And so as I plugged it in, plugged my speakers in, good to go. And once you do your software update, which takes 10 minutes or so, I'm up and running and listening to music. And then what I did the other day, or yesterday I guess it was, so you see it recognizes my microphone's plugged in. I just went through this really quick Dirac setup or Dirac calibration. And this is my filter here. Oops. I set my levels. Like I said, we'll do a better discussion. I did a tightly focused, just for this room, for real quickly. I just did a single calibration, and then I got a filter design, which it's not going to give me here because I've already gone through this process. So, and then it gives me a chart and diagram, and then makes the speaker sound, you know, pretty good, pretty decent in this room. If you really want to do it right, you want to make sure that you measure all these various areas that they're recommending as you're setting up Dirac. So that's really the major setup, all you need, and then you've got a freaking awesome receiver. I just think it's cool. Where to begin? We'll get copyright struck there. We get about, what do we get, 10 seconds or something like that. So NAD T778, I know it sounds weird that I'm even talking about this stuff, and I know I'm giving you a little bit different, simpler take on this. I promise I'm not being lazy on you. There are tons of videos. If I was going to buy this, I would watch all the reviews, all the reviewers. I would read a bunch of articles. I would read like Home Theater Magazine, if that even still exists, Stereophile. I would read all kinds of information on it. I'd be watching all the content I could get. But the thing that you generally miss is just tell me the basics. And so that's the videos that I'm hoping to make on these things. And then we'll have future setup videos as I put these in different garages and different homes and things like that. We'll be showing you that. But I think this is one of the best receivers in the world. It has some quirks in that it is a Class D amplifier. But on these big power hungry, these are 87 dB sensitivity. So these really power hungry Dynaudio Evokes, it sounds great. So if you're doing something like a Klipsch or some more efficient speaker like a Goldnir or something like that, if you're doing some more efficient stuff, SVS or some other speaker, this will really, really do well with those specifically that don't require a whole lot of power. I would, if I was doing a receiver and I was doing a home theater, this is exactly what I would do. I'd do a T778. I would do Dynaudio Evoke 50s, a Dynaudio Evoke 25C center, and I would do some Dynaudio in ceilings for my rears. That's how I would set up a theater if I was in that that kind of $10,000 theater ballpark range. In a garage, this is our solution for, this is what you want. If we're going to be setting up multi-channel in the garage, you want multi-channel audio because you're going to put a TV, center channel, speakers. Believe it or not, lots of people do that. I wish I had done it in my garage. I would rather have a single pinpoint focused multi-channel audio system than a distributed audio system where I just have speakers hanging from the ceiling. You could always run this multi-channel stereo if you wanted to do that. I would rather run a central point, center channel, and front speakers. I have the ability to run it in stereo, and instead of doing just like I said, pairs of speakers all over the place. So that's the NAD T778. We'll probably stock one or two of these for the unique situation where we need it, especially with garage design. But again, I'll continue to provide you more and more information on these as we make different videos about audio stuff. Right now I'm giving you sort of high level as we build on our audio platform. And then who knows, I'm probably headed toward building, I want to build a website called Destination OG, which would be house and project house focused, and this stuff will play a major part in there. So that's the T778. Thanks for watching.